Tone lives, guys. So we promised this year we were going to bring some cool stuff to the website that's kind of off the beaten path of the stuff you normally see. So I took my wife and I went and did some crashing of pawn shops and antique stores and whatnot of the towns where we live around to see what we could find, and we found a bunch of old radios, a bunch of old tube radios like the Zenith. And the best thing that we can figure out is this is from 1955, right around that time. It could be 1954 or 1956, but the run of this was right around 1955. And when we walked in the pawn shop, the guy says, "Hey man, that radio works." And I pretty much know this. Any tube radio sounds fantastic when it comes to pushing a guitar through it. So the guy turned it on, and I was like, don't turn it on again. If you say it works, it works. We ended up buying, I think, a couple radios from that guy, and we ended up buying 4 for the day, and we'll do videos on them as the year progresses here, but I just wanted to show you guys some stuff. And I talked in my last video about a Variac, and there seems to be some real stories on what a Variac does. A Variac does not increase the voltage like a lot of people think. You know, you have what a Variac does is, I have one here that I got off the internet years ago that's from China, and you can see on the top of this thing here that it goes from 0 up to 130 volts. And I can promise you that whatever the voltage is out of the wall is what this thing's going to put out. I've never got it to put out anything more than that because that's just not what it does. It allows you to roll the voltage back. And the old school thing is that everybody heard that Eddie Van Halen did this back in the day. And Eddie actually rolled the voltage down. And the reason for that is it browns out the sound. Everybody, knows about the brown sound. And what that did is it lowered the voltage enough for him to turn up his amplifiers. And at that time, he was actually using one amplifier as a stomp box. Or at least that's what people say. There's so many rumors now, I don't know if we'll ever get to the truth of it. But with my own mad scientist approach at a lot of this stuff, I have rolled the voltage down to about 90 in like a JVM 410 Marshall amplifier, some Marshall 800s, and I've rolled the voltage back in a lot of tube amps, and it normally sounds better. I don't know how you can explain what it does to the sound, but it kind of warms it up, and it just sounds really killer. So that's what a Variac is used for a lot of gearheads in guitar playing and amps and whatever. However, what I have learned over the years is that when you're messing with old stuff like this, and these things are just so freaking cool. These things have capacitors in them, okay? They're little storage units of, electricity for various components or parts of the amplifier that need a storage amount of power. And there's all kinds of capacitor videos out there, so I won't go into it much. And there's so much that you could say about what a capacitor can be used for and done. But I won't go into that in this video. But these capacitors that are in these things, they get really old and dried out over time. And one of the things that you can do is you can get a Variac like this, and you can roll the voltage up so that the thing doesn't see all 120 that's coming out of the wall, and you can kind of roll the voltage up and kind of warm this thing up. Because, I mean, some of these things have been off for 20, 30 years maybe. This particular one had been off for a very long time. It had been in a lady's house where a guy that was an old radio collector had it. It probably was sitting for 30 years. So by warming the caps up in this thing, I think it's just better. So that's what I use a Variac for. And we'll do some more stuff with a Variac this year and roll the voltages down in some Marshall amplifiers. And they sound killer. So that's what this is. So I'll switch the Variac on, and we'll start rolling the voltage back up here. I do it 2 or 3 times until I got the voltage rolled right about where I think I need it. So I got the voltage up now, and we'll turn the volume up. There we go. Give those tubes a second to warm up. So this thing worked like this when we got it. So I'm going to turn the volume down here so we know we got power. So here's what I did. I came home with my kids. Everybody was kind of excited about this. And I realized that this thing had an RCA jack in the back. So let me roll this around and show you guys. This thing has a one RCA jack. It says radio and phono on it, right? So you switch it in the phono position, and I just took a guitar cable and I hooked up a guitar cable out of my guitar into this funky little wiring device I got here, which is just a bunch of connectors. And I'll always have a whole box of connectors laying around I pick up here and there for stuff exactly like this. You can never have too many when you're gigging because you always seem to need, connections or cables or whatever. So I plugged it in just this simple, right? I plugged it into my guitar and everybody standing there was like, yeah, right, whatever. Can't see where I'm at here, guys. All right. And lo and behold, this thing hasn't, beautiful, warm, beautiful, warm, tubey goodness. You heard it here right. So here, for all those guys out there who I can't afford this and I can't afford that, that's why I did this video. This is we paid $42.50 for this because I think we got two of them on a deal at one place and two on another place. It's got a slight little hum in it, and it probably could use to go to a guy that works on tube amps, or I could probably trace why it's probably got a bad capacitor, and that's why it's humming. Let me turn the this in your bedroom and you can just go in there and sit and play. So now the tubes are starting to break up and the thing just sounds better the more you push it. So here, real quick, I'm gonna I got problems with this guitar. Thing sounds great. So let's roll this back to about, I don't know, say 90. So that's back up again. Make sure this volume's pegged. So let's roll the volume back down and clean it up. So the other night I hooked a distortion pedal up to it, a little diode clipping in front of this thing, which for those of you guys who don't know, diode clipping is just what comes from a pedal. They use diodes in it, a regular pedal. So, and I hooked this thing up, and it just was awesome. It sounded like a little tiny Marshall. The louder it gets, the better it sounds. So kind of a fun little thing, and as the year goes by, another cool thing that kind of happened was when we opened this thing up, there was a bag inside of it full of old vintage tubes. I haven't checked on eBay right now. I'm a tube collector. I love tubes. And I haven't found out what they're really worth yet, but there's some old GE tubes in there and some old RCA tubes in there, and I'm sure there were some. She's making a little more noise now than she was the other night. It clicks in and out. I'm not sure if it's trying to pick up a station and we're between channels here or whatever. But the point is, guys, is you could, you know, there's some life left in this old stuff, and they're just so cool, man. Just the way this thing looks and it glows on the inside. Just a killer little piece. And I wanted to bring it to you guys out there who think you can't afford good equipment. Go down and hunt down at some pawn shops. Go to some you know, antique stores. Make a deal with somebody. We've got 4 more of these. This is about the medium size one. I have one with 2 KT88s in it that is just glorious looking. And how cool would that be to be your bedroom amp? So if you can't afford to run out and buy a big amplifier, you might come across something like this that just sounds so. That's the original speaker. So what's that speaker? I don't know, 60 years old? And the thing still plays. Sounds killer. So for us here at Tone Lips, I hope this helps you guys out. This is a great piece of equipment. I hope that gave you an idea what we use a Variac for, at least what I use a Variac for. And I'm sure there's a lot better technical explanations to it, but great piece of gear. This was a lot of fun. Might put this for sale up on the website. I don't know yet. My wife just falls in love with the damn things, and then I can't sell them. So I don't know what I'm going to do with all these radios now that I have. But it's a lot of fun with you guys out there. And thanks for all the questions and everybody who's supported us. I really do appreciate it. Remember to find a kid that you can help. And that means if you can put your arms around a kid that's hurting. Remember, in America, you don't live 5 miles from a kid that's not going to eat dinner tonight. There's no excuse. These are our brothers and sisters, our families. Help a kid. I love y'all. Good night.